Dear students, today our topic is poem number 4 of Flamingo textbook, A Thing of Beauty, written by John Keats. Now, in this video, I will give you a detailed account of this poet, John Keats. Now, John Keats was born on 31st October 1795 in Moorgate, London, England. He died on 23rd February 1821 at the age of 25 in Rome, Papal States. Cause of death tuberculosis, occupation poet, literary movement romanticism. Relatives George Keats, who was his brother. So he was born on 31st October 1795 and died on 23rd February 1821. He was an English poet, prominent in the second generation of Romantic poets, with Lord Byron and Percy B. Shelley or P.B. Shelley, although his poems had been published for only 4 years when he died of tuberculosis at the age of 25. They were indifferently received in his lifetime, but his fame grew rapidly after his death. By the end of the century, he was placed in the canon of English literature and had become an inspiration for the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, strongly influencing many writers. The Encyclopedia Britannica called one ode one of the final masterpieces. George Louis Burgess named his first encounter with Keats an experience that he felt all his life. Keats had a style heavily loaded with sensualities, notably in the series of odes. Typical of the Romantics, he accentuated extreme emotion by emphasizing natural imagery. Today, his poems and letters remain among the most popular and analyzed in English literature, especially acclaimed or ode to especially acclaimed or ode to a nightingale, ode on a Grecian urn, sleeping poetry, and the sonnet on first looking into Champagne's home. Now, John Keats' childhood struggle. Born to Thomas and Frances Jennings Keats, John Keats was the eldest of 5 siblings. Tragedy struck their family early on when his brother Edward passed away at age 1 in 1802, Colvin. Keats suffered a lifestyle filled with multiple inconsistent caretakers. His father Thomas Keats died in April of 1804 in a horse riding accident, and leaving Keats and his siblings under the sole care of his mother, Frances Jennings John Keats. Slightly over 2 months later, she got remarried to a minor bank clerk named William Rawlings. However, overly consumed with his desire to become rich Rawlings proved to be a poor husband and father figure as the marriage ended in disaster. Keats' mother in 1810 Keats' mother in 1810 and his grandmother in 1814, a merchant named Richard Abbey, became his primary caretaker. Abbey strongly disregards the interests and welfare of the Keats children, as he often kept their family money from them. Despite Keats' interest in poetry, Abbey forced him into an apprenticeship with a surgeon in order to learn to become a doctor. Now, early education. John Keats achieved literary success from a young age. Keats was receiving his education from Enfield Academy when he became very close with the headmaster John Clarke and his 15-year-old son, Charles Culloden Clarke. He earned the headmaster's approval by winning multiple essay contests and by demonstrating his skill in Latin and French. Clarke School is where Keats began to study literature extensively. Keats was Keats was very much in touch with his imagination at this time. Inspired by the tragic death of his father, Keats read and studied literature substantially. His love for reading and writing also fueled his vigorous studies. The cause of the Keats family's financial troubles. 1 year after the death of Keats' father, Keats lost his grandfather, John Jennings, to old age. John was a kind and generous man, but was also prone to be taken advantage of. He unknowingly hired a con artist to take care of his will, which resulted in disastrous consequences for the Keats family. The man wrote John Jennings' will in a way which was very vague and difficult to understand. Therefore, after his death, there were disputes over where his fortune has distributed to the family. Now, medical career and transition to poetry. Keats' medical career began after he left Enfield Academy when his guardian Richard Abbey forced him into an apprenticeship under a prestigious surgeon, Thomas Hammond. His job as a dresser at Guy's Hospital entailed him to complete tasks such as holding back patients during surgery and bandaging their injuries and wounds. Although the position of surgeon would have led to a respectable salary and would not have required him to attain a college degree, witnessing such graphic human suffering proved to be too traumatic for Keats. During his time as a dresser, he became well depressed and was also unable to devote much time to writing. After 5 years of apprenticeship, he decided to leave the medical field and pursue his literary talents. During this time, Keats became acquainted with poet Leigh Hunt, who convinced him he could survive without his surgeon's salaries and focus solely on his poetry. In March of 1860, Keats published his first volume of poetry titled Poems. Although it did not receive favorable reviews, this did not stop Hunt from publishing Keats' works such as On First Looking into Champaign's Homer, a sonnet about his reaction to George Champaign's translation of Homer. Although Keats achieved some literary success at the start of his career, the years of 1818 and 1819 boasted his most accomplished works, specifically in his series of odes, such as Grecian Urn and Ode to a Nightingale. His release of Endymion in 1880 did not yield as favorable of reviews, with many critics implying that he should return to his career as surgeon. Keats continued to write despite the harsh criticism, and the final volume of poems he lived to see published was Lamia, Isabella, the Eve of St. Agnes, and other poems in 1820. It had favorable responses from many of his peers. The romantic relationship with Fanny. It is speculated that Keats met his longtime lover Fanny Brawne in 1880 when he moved into Wentworth Place, now known as Keats' House. Much of the elaborate detail regarding their relationship remains a mystery, largely because he burned the majority of her letters, only preserving a few of her final letters which he had buried with him. From the writings of Keats and Brawne that have been salvaged, it is apparent that their love affair was tumultuous due to his struggle with tuberculosis and concern with attaining success in the literary field. In a letter Keats wrote to Brawne in 1818, he expresses how his approaching demise and his deep love for Brawne are the main focus of his thoughts. I have two luxuries to brood over in my walks, your loveliness and the hour of my death. Oh, that I could have possession of them both in the same minute. Keats Scudder and Foreman 384, page number 384 to 385. Other examples of his adoration for Brawne can be found in his poem Bright Star, which he wrote in 1819. The last time the couple saw each other was before Keats' departed from Rome. Battled with tuberculosis and final years of John Keats. After being diagnosed with tuberculosis, a disease that had afflicted many of his family members, Keats traveled to Italy in hope of finding treatment. Keats died at the mere age of 25 in 1821 and was laid to rest at a Protestant cemetery in Rome. This was all about John Keats, the great poet, and whose poem A Thing of Beauty is the fourth poem of your Flamenco textbook, and we'll learn more about the poem in the coming videos. Have a nice day. Thank you.